Good morning. Thanks for stopping in. We have a whole bunch of work to do. Let's see what we have here. So we have a 362 with some sort of issue at the handle. We have a 361 that doesn't run well and had an aftermarket carb put on it and now runs even worse. We have an MS260 that doesn't run well. We have a 261 that was clipped by a skid steer and just needs some parts replaced. We have a 170 that wasn't running well, went to another shop, and now runs even worse. An MS180 for some recoil work. An Echo CS680 that had some sort of accident. A combi for service. A two-man Hornet. 026, 026, 024. MS260. A couple 261s. An 038. And a Dalmar 7910. We're going to start with the Stihl 026. I'll see you at the workbench. Good morning. Welcome back to my workbench. My name is Erica, and I am so glad that you're here. Today, we're going to look at a Stihl 026. So this is an interesting one. This saw was found in a dumpster with a few other saws that are over here in my lineup. So we're going to go through all these dumpster finds one by one. So we know nothing about this saw other than it was in the garbage. So the customer wants to know, will it run? So we're going to go over it and find out what the problem is, if there's a problem. And I did a little bit of research on 026s. These are our famous saw. I would call them famous. They made different versions of an 026. So there was the baseline 026. There was the 026 Pro. And there was Arctic versions as well. So this is a Stihl 026 Pro Arctic. This would have been the top of the line 026 when it was bought new. So they made the 026 from 1988 until 2002, and they made the 026 Pro from 1996 until 2002. This is around a 49cc professional chainsaw. So I don't know the year of this, but sometime between 96 and 02. So this will be fun. I enjoy looking at and working on these older chainsaws and trying to bring them back to life. So I'm glad you're here with me. Come along and let's find out why this chainsaw was found in a dumpster. Well, here we are with a Stihl 026 Pro Arctic that was found in a dumpster along with another 026 and an 024. It'll be really interesting to go through these saws. I like these older ones, especially when they're found in the garbage. I'm trying to find out why they were put in the garbage. So they made 026s and they made 026 Pros. This would have had a Pro sticker on it. I think it was right there. It's just missing. So the difference between an 026 base model and an 026 Pro was that the Pro version had a decompression valve. The other did not. And this saw has an adjustable oiler, where the base model did not. So this being an Arctic with heated handles, there's your Arctic on and off switch right there. I don't know if this is kind of a rare saw. I see 026s quite often, but 026 Pro Arctics, not so often. I imagine this would have been a pricey saw when it was bought new. This would have been the top of the line 026. There wouldn't have been anything better than this. I'm curious too, the person who bought this new, Did they special order the saw at the dealer? Maybe the dealer had it in stock and they just bought it right off the shelf. Why'd they buy Arctic? Like sometimes a person will end up with an Arctic saw, maybe because it's just what the dealer has. Or did he, I say did he or she want the Arctic feature? Did they like that maybe? The history of these saws, it always interests me. Like who bought this saw? Why they choose this saw? What they do with it? Did they run it commercially? Was it used by a homeowner to cut firewood? I love knowing all those little details, but oftentimes those little details are lost in time, such as with this saw. Why was this saw in the dumpster? What is so wrong with this saw that it belongs in a dumpster? Well, we're going to go through this thing. We're going to find out, and we're going to see if it will run and live again. We'll just do a little external walk around on this thing, see if anything stands out to us as broken or missing. Something just doesn't quite line up there. I think the handle might be, that's a metal handle. I think it might be a little bit bent. You know, sometimes some saws have a plastic handle, and if there's an impact, the handle will just break and you can replace it. But when a metal handle gets bent, it can actually kind of twist the saw. You know what I mean? So there are benefits to a plastic handle. I have seen a bent metal handle actually twist a saw and break a fuel tank. But I think this saw has been bent and someone has tried to kind of straighten it back out, but the saw may have like a little twist to it. One recoil screw there is missing. I wish this thing could talk and tell me where it's been and what it's done and who threw it in the garbage. Well, we're starting here with absolutely no information, just what we see. So we're going to start with the very basics. Fuel. Is there fuel in it? And we'll go from there. So let's have a look in here. There is some kind of red something in there. Let me just grab a container and we'll dump that out. Okay, we'll start with a clean cup. Ooh, the smell of that. I don't know. That is, whatever that is, it's thick, dirty, and it stinks. Let me just put that in a clear glass container. I'll just pour it into this and then we can get a better look at it. A little bit of dirt stayed in there. Oh, I wish you could smell this. It's almost undescribable, the smell. Get that far away from me. Okay, so there is lots of dirt in the tank. A little puddle of that red stuff down in the bottom. I'll just pull that fuel line and fuel filter out and just have a peek at it. The fuel line doesn't look great. The fuel filter, it is a Stihl filter. I think what I'll do is just put a drop of fresh fuel in there, shake it up, dump it out, just to kind of get the rest of that red stuff. And there's kind of a blob of dirt in there. Just get that out. And then I'll put some fresh fuel in it. And why don't we just step outside and just try to start it? I know someone at home right now is yelling, pull the muffler off. And we're going to get there. We're going to check out the pit. We're going to check out everything. But I'm going to take my time with this and just go step by step and look this thing over. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Just going to put a drop in here just to get the rest of that, whatever that is, out of there. I know True Fuel is that color, like a red color, but I don't think that's True Fuel. I've never smelt anything like that before. And that cap leaks. There's a whole bunch of dirt out of that tank. The cap leaks, and the cap just broke off of there. Just rotten. So I put a new fuel cap on there. The old one was leaking, and I usually have a new O-ring, but I don't have any, but I have the whole cap. So for now, we'll just do that because I don't want it to leak all over me when I go outside with it. I'm going to just take a quick peek in that oil reservoir and just see if there is oil in it. Yep, there is quite a bit in there. Okay, I don't expect this will go real well, but let's just step outside with it and see if anything will happen, if it'll fire for us at all. Okay, I'll meet you out there. Nothing. Okay, well, that gave no sign at all of wanting to start. So let's just go through this one thing at a time here. Pull that air filter cover off. Let's take that air filter off. You see the marks on those. That's a good sign this air filter has been taken off for cleaning. Let's put the spark tester on and just make sure we have spark. Just going to bring it down to the floor here. Okay, so I'm going to pull this thing over and we're going to look in that little window right there for spark. All right, I think we have good spark. That spark tester, bought that from Stihl. I don't know what the part number is offhand, but I can get it. Okay, well, let's pull that spark plug out next. Okay, the spark plug looks fine. Okay, let's do a compression test. Decompression valve is out, and I'm going to use my foot and hold the throttle in wide open position. What do we have here? About 130 pounds. Let's take a quick look down the hole there with the camera. All right, so 130 pounds of compression isn't the best we've ever seen, but it should be enough for this saw to run on. So we had a look at the piston cylinder. They aren't perfect. You could see the start of scoring. When this thing last ran, it was running lean. You can see brown staining. That is from poor quality fuel. So the first thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to actually dump that fuel back out that I put in there. Just pour that back out. I should have done this right in the beginning, but I'm going to, well, I was going to pressurize that fuel line, but I'll zoom in so you can see it. It just literally broke right there at the fuel filter. See that? Just rotten. So I was going to pressurize the fuel line, and that'd be testing it for leaks in the carburetor, but that won't be happening. So we see that quite often. When those fuel lines sit in nasty old fuel, you see what becomes of them. Well, let's pull the muffler off of this. Spark arrestor is clean in there. I don't know if you can see in there. Let me see if I can light it up. It's not perfect. Both rings are free. There's light scoring started, just like we've seen on camera a few minutes ago. Somebody was running some junk fuel through this, but we're going to press on here. It's not bad enough to make this thing not run. So we're going to pressure back test this, make sure this thing is tight. And if it is, we're going to take a close look at that carburetor. We got a fuel line, just some fuel system problems, and I'm on a mission to make this thing run today. Okay, so let's pull that carburetor. Those nuts weren't very tight, really. The carb adjustment screws look pretty mangled, so there's obviously been something going on here. All right, there's our carburetor off. Okay, we're going to block our intake off. So normally with an 026, I would use this intake block, but some of this Arctic stuff is actually interfering with installing this. So I'm going to have to get creative here and do something different. So I'm going to use that block, and then I have to block the impulse. I'll block with this little homemade plug. The fuel line is basically in the way. There we go. Yep, that should work. Okay, we'll put our spark plug back in. There it is. We'll pull that decompression valve out and we'll put a plug in there. Okay, intake's done, spark plug's in, decompression plug is in. Just plug up our exhaust now. All right, let me grab my tester and we will pressure vac test this thing and see if it's tight. Okay, pressure vac tester. I bought this from Stihl, and I know I've said Mighty Vac a few times. It is like a Mighty Vac, but not a Mighty Vac. It's made by LTR. Somebody in the comments pointed that out to me. So this does vacuum and pressure. So we're going to pull vacuum first. What do you think? Is it going to hold? I hope so. Oh no. Seems like every single saw I've touched in the last week. Oh yeah. Okay, let's go over to, actually, you know what I didn't do? Probably someone's saying it right now, is I didn't test my tool first. So on vacuum, yes, the tool's fine. Okay, so we have a serious vacuum leak. Let's go over to pressure, because you can have a vacuum leak and not have a pressure leak. Also, we got to make sure that my connections, my blocks here are all good, because I could have messed something up too. I'm pretty good at messing things up. So let's go to pressure. I can hear it. I can hear the leak. I wonder if you can hear it. Listen. I'll put my mic up to the saw. Can you hear that? Okay, so we have a major vacuum and pressure leak, and we can hear it. So I'm going to grab my soapy water, and first thing we'll do is just verify that it's not my intake or my exhaust block or anything like that. Spark plug is in tight. That's not the problem. Decompression valve is, the plug is in there. And that is not the problem. You can probably hear that, can't you? All right, intake. I see no problem at the intake. Check out the I can hear it loud and clear. It's not coming from the exhaust. It's back here somewhere. Sounds like the intake boot. Listen to this. Well, I thought I was going to have a running saw here by the end of this video, but surprise. So we have a major pressure and vacuum leak at the intake boot, and there could be other leaks which we can't detect until we seal up that leak. So I'm going to have to call the customer on this one and find out what he's interested in investing into his dumpster find 026. I just looked up some parts quick. So a gasket kit for this saw, which includes crank seals, exhaust gasket, cylinder gasket. The kit is $25. And then the intake boot is $45. We would also do an impulse line. We've got a rotten fuel line, fuel filter. He's got a bent handle here. So do you remember early on in this video, we discussed these metal handles, and there's an impact to them and they get bent, how they can actually like twist the saw. So I've seen this quite a few times where a handle's bent, the saw's twisted, and that intake boot has a leak because the saw's flexing. Okay, so this handle, it can be ordered from Stihl. It's $168. So these are really nice little saws, but you kind of want to have a few part saws probably if you own one of these. So it's going to be up to the customer here how far he wants to go into this. And then besides everything we've just spoke about here, we've also got this carburetor, which we haven't dug into yet. So a little bit of risk here, whether he wants to do this or not. I'm going to have to find out. I won't be able to find out today. I can't get a hold of him today. It'll be in one day next week. So when this saw wouldn't start for us, we tested and we found lots of spark. It would have been pretty easy to see that rotten fuel line and think, let's just throw a new fuel line in this and maybe just order some cheap carb off of Amazon and slap it on there and we're back in business. You could do all sorts of things with this saw, and this saw would still not start for you because it has a massive air leak. So if you pick up one of these on Marketplace cheap, these are a really neat saw to play with, a really nice saw to use. But if you bring one of these home and it won't start, you can just follow the process that I followed here, and you just slowly eliminate all the things until you find the problem. And we found it. So that's probably going to be it for now on this. I thought this was going to be a get this 026 running video, but it's going to be more like an 026 diagnosing the problems video. But that's okay. So if he wants to fix this, then there will be a part 2 on this. And if he doesn't want to fix it, he'll either come and get it or he'll leave it here and I'll do a part 2 on it on Erica time. Well, here we are with the Stihl 026 Pro Arctic. I really thought going into this that this was going to end with a running chainsaw, but you see how that one went. You never know what you're getting into. There's a surprise around every single corner. So that's it for this saw for now. I will let you guys know next week what's going to become of this saw and if you're going to see a part 2 on it. So I have a whole bunch of saws over there waiting for me. I'll get this thing out of the way, go grab a coffee, and get on to the next chainsaw. Thank you so much for watching.